Alright, so this is my second video, and it's about the second family of special right triangles. This family is known as the 30-60-90 triangles, or the 30-60-90 family, because you'll never guess this one. That you have a right triangle, so 90 degrees, here's your biggest angle, and go figure, you have a 30-degree angle and you have a 60-degree angle. I know, it's hard to believe that a 30-60-90 would be based off of those angle measures. So sarcasm aside, there are some things that are really special about this family. And I kind of like to think about it as a family of things. So the first thing we need to talk about is the fact that the smallest angle is the 30 degree angle, and opposite or across from that 30-degree angle is always going to be the baby side or the smallest side of the triangle. And I like to call it the baby, or like every other family, the baby is always the one that controls the show, right? The baby doesn't want to go, we don't go. The baby's taking a nap, we don't do that. So the baby of the family is our control piece. And when we have that control piece, we like to call it X. Now, if the baby is the control, then we're going to use multiplication to find the other sides. Now, hopefully, it makes sense that the biggest side is the hypotenuse across from the 90. That's your biggest size, the hypotenuse. And I like to think of that biggest because we're going to take a poll when I get back to class. Who's the oldest in your family? Because I venture to guess that those of you who have, a baby in the family and an oldest in the family, that the oldest in the family is probably the one that's easygoing. So the baby's the controls the show. And the biggest, the hypotenuse, is the easygoing one. And the reason I say that is because to find the length of the biggest size, we always take 2 times the baby. So 2x is kind of that ratio. Now, where are my middle kids? Chuckle if that's you. It's my mom. And my mom's just a little strange. Like, if you think I'm weird, my mom's even stranger. Love her. She's even stranger than me. And when you have that baby, you have to do something a little strange to find that middle kid. And they always do weird things. Love them. Middle kids are great, but they do weird things. And in this case, this middle kid is always x times the square root of 3. Weird, but true. I know it's an awkward way to talk about it, but that's how that goes. So it's a 30-60-90 triangle, and it has this ratio of x, 2x, x root 3. Now, when we talked about this problem with a 45-45-90, I made you do the Pythagorean theorem and all those funky things. And I'm not going to spend time making you do that in this particular picture. So I'm just going to change colors. And at the same time that I'm changing colors, we're going to fill in what happens when you say that the baby's a side length of 1. So if we say that this baby side, or the smallest leg, or whatever way somebody talks about it, if we say that that piece is a 1, to get from the baby to the biggest, right, to leave the control piece, we always use multiply. Always. And in this case, we're multiplied by 2. So if we take that side length of 1, and to get to the hypotenuse, we do 1 times 2, so we have a hypotenuse of 2. Now remember that baby's the control piece, so you have to come back to the baby to get to the middle. And again, once you have that control piece, that x, if that's where you're at, you're going to use multiplication right? Use multiplication to get that middle side, or that second leg, or long leg, or longest leg, longer leg, whatever vocabulary. There's lots of different ways to talk about that. Excuse me. So those are those big pieces. So take a moment, make sure you have that all the way written down. I think I gave you enough time, but I need to change my slide, and I know my computer will freak out when I go to do it. So I'm going to pause my video. Okay, so I added something to my graphic, and I took out all that family stuff because it's something you need to think, but not as important as this stuff. So again, we said that the first thing we want to do is identify that 30-degree angle and find that baby. Who's the baby of the family? Which side is across from that 30-degree angle? And that's the one that we're going to call X. Once we have that X, we could multiply to get the other two legs. Sometimes, though, you're not going to have the baby of the family. You're going to have the hypotenuse, or you're going to have the longer leg. When that happens, then you're going to use division instead. So you would take that hypotenuse length and divide it by 2 to get the baby, and then you have the control, so you can use multiply. You should only have to do divide once. And that is the biggest piece. Now we need to put it into practice. So I think now that we have the facts, I'm going to leave that as the end of this video, and I'm going to do a third video with examples. So I will see you in my very last video with some example problems.